How's everybody doing? And thanks for tuning in to Wicked Warnings, your number one source for construction and emergency safety lighting and equipment for cars, vans, buses, bicycles, tricycles, and Ford Raptors. A lot of Ford Raptors, as you can see. We got two here. Now there's a full build video on that white one we're going to save for another time. Let's focus today instead on this gray one. Alrighty, a little different package on this one. We did go with the DRL plug-and-play Wicked Warnings auto flasher for the headlights. That's a brand new product. Basically developed it on this truck. So that is plug and play behind the headlights, and it flashes the DRL circuit of the headlight. And as you can see by the sliver in between the headlights, the parking lights are on right now. So this is the effect that you're going to get. Lights on, lights off, doesn't matter. And all the Raptor auxiliary switches work with key on. So key off action isn't important because the Raptors have switches, which all are key dependent anyways. So the key on the truck is on right now. And you can also see our Wicked Warnings auto flasher using the 5 DOT lights in the front. Now that is a little bit more involved. We had to crack open the grille, repower the center light to split them top 3, and run a new power to each fender. It's not a hard kit, but you can get that on another auto flasher separate from the plug and play on the headlight. You do need 2 different kits for that. Behind that grille there, you might notice the M-Power 3-inch in amber white. That's a very versatile light. It's a 3M double stick tape. We highly suggest using our 3M primer promoter, Primer 94, before applying it for a much better bond. And it's very universal. You only need to drill 1 hole for the wiring. We mount those right on the active shutters behind the honeycomb, and you can run the wiring right inside the engine bay quite easily. We actually ran the auto flasher wiring and the M-Power wiring all through the factory Molex connector, originally holding only 2 wires for the upper 3 DOT parking lights. It is an 8-position connector, and it only has 2. So by adding some Molex MX150 pins, that's what you need, MX150 Molex pins, by adding those to the factory connector, you're able to run wiring through it and add additional wiring. This allows the grille and the auto flasher and everything to be removed through the factory connection without any additional connections or wiring needing to be cut. It's a nice extra step. And of course, we're going to also upgrade some of the off-road lighting on this truck. So what you have behind the grille there, stealthily mounted, is the 6 Baja Designs lights. They also went with Baja Designs on the fogs. We have a yellow set of Pros on the inboard S2 Pros and a white set of Pros on the factory fog outboards, as you can see there. Now, of course, the yellow is switched separate from the white, and we didn't elect to flash any of these because the S2 Pro by Baja Designs is quite impressive in light output, and the customer just wanted to let it be a nice fog light. Now, you might have seen on a different Raptor build where we flashed the factory rigid fog lights, which do not have the lumen output that these do. So these were quite significantly brighter, so we're going to let them just stay whatever duty they are now, driving in fog. Another thing I'd like to mention is, of course, you don't lose any factory function with the auto flasher module. The module that we created that is currently running the DOT lights in the middle of the grille and the headlights, that allows all factory function to continue when you're not in emergency mode. As soon as you switch that switch off, everything reverts back to like it was factory and works perfectly. Alrighty, around back here you can see we're running 2 auto flasher kits. By default, the kit for the taillights is only set up to run the taillights, but you can add some extra wire and run the fenders as well. Now, I might develop a Raptor specific kit if popularity warrants it, but these are F-150 kits on the back of this Raptor for the reverse and the taillight. It just has a slightly different wiring harness, which we'll be able to help you with. We have pinout diagrams of all of the different levels of taillights. So before you order, make sure to maybe email in a photo of your taillight, or better yet, the connector behind your taillight, or at least count the number of wires in it, because then we can determine exactly which taillight package you have. That is 2 kits, 1 on the reverse and 1 on the red parking ring. And what we did is split off, again, 2 extra wires from the red parking ring kit to run those fender lights that you see in behind the rear wheel. And of course, we had to alternate them. Now, rear-facing, the Raptor taillights are unique from the F-150, being that the upper is a red brake light. The F-150, the upper is an amber LED turn signal. So we're not going to flash red brake lights here. And this does, I believe, have the smart hitch, which means the center is also a red brake light. So we're running the reverse white and the red parking ring in an X pattern. And being that that white is so bold, I like to add a 3-inch M-Power in all amber below it, right to that gap above the bumper below the actual tail light in that little pocket. Now you could run an amber white there if you like, but I like the way that the amber complements the white reverse just above it. And we're using a pattern called Warp on that 3-inch M power, which of course is mounted just like the front with 3M VHB tape and Primer 94, the primer promoter. But that is again a pattern called Warp, and the pattern on the front lights was called Intercycle, just in case you want to match that. Now, of course, everything is fed off the factory upfitter switches on this build. And if you haven't located those yet, they are on the passenger fender, kind of tucked behind the battery. A little difficult to locate, but you can either get at them from removing the passenger headlight or remove the battery, and you can get at the harness there and add some extensions. Every Raptor that we see, we add a nice 14 gauge extension on every one of those auxiliary wires. That way it's easy to wire it in again later. You don't need to take the battery out again later. So we put like a 14-inch extension on all those wires, loom it up, wrap it really nice, and tie it to the fender the way Ford should have did from day one. But we do it anyways here for the Raptor owners, so if they ever add anything later, they have the wiring right there in handy. Thanks again for tuning in to Wicked Warnings, your number one source for construction and emergency safety strobe lighting equipment for cars, vans, buses, bicycles, tricycles, and we love the Ford Raptor community. So if you have a Raptor, whether it be whatever generation,